So Takunda, I want to hear from you, what do you think is the future for technology and education?
It's quite interesting, and this may seem a bit like a paradox, but I think what we are doing now in terms of providing education solutions, I think in the near future, some of the concepts that we are putting out may not be so relevant, and I think that's primarily because of the advancement and the introduction of AI, artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And what we found is AI has continued to advance over the last couple of years. And I was reading an article a little while ago about a new AI solution that Elon Musk basically, just deployed. And you'll be amazed at what that kind of machine can do. And so right now we found that AI has started to become a part of almost every educational area. So whether it's law or whether it's medicine, we now have robots in all of those different areas that are making some of the jobs that before were extremely important much more irrelevant as we speak. So I think the future of education and technology is going to rest upon AI. It's going to have something related to artificial intelligence. I think in the future, instead of having an actual teacher, I think we'll have a robot. You go online and there'll basically be a robot or an artificial intelligence machine, and you're basically asking it questions relating to whatever area it is, and it will give you answers, and it will teach you, and then a new concept or a new area, and then it'll give you feedback. I think that's where we're gonna be going pretty soon. I think artificial intelligence is where we're basically going. So in terms of tech, I think that's basically something interesting and something to look into. But I think what we're going to see as well in the next few years is we're going to see a transition from the traditional ways of education. And I think a lot of education now is going to incorporate, online kind of ways of portraying. So we're going to have Edutech taking over this space. I think that's something to really look into. And I think if there are institutions who haven't started to think about it, or we're not thinking forward, I think that's something that they need to think about. And I think we're going to have a lot of these huge institutions actually migrating online. And I think we're going to see more and more of that, because it's been proven. As a result of COVID, we began to see that actually online education can work. It can also be effective. But I think it will be effective for maybe a few more decades. But I think what we're looking at in the future is maybe a total overhaul of some of these areas that we're actually going to school to learn. I think there's going to be an overhaul, and I think AI is going to take a huge part of that. And I think what's going to happen as a result of that, I think the emphasis is no longer going to be upon some of these hard skills, but I think what's going to be important are soft skills, because no matter how much you can teach a machine, even you can, and I know right now they're basically teaching machines to be empathetic, et cetera, but I think there's a human touch that you can't basically give this. I think social skills and soft skills are going to become critical skills in the future, and those people who can basically interact with tech in that end are going to become some of the most relevant. So I think that's where we're going, but it's very interesting to think about, and it excites me at the same time, but it could be a bit of an issue for certain people, because you find that after 4 years, your degree that you've been studying may not be as relevant. So I think that's also something that people have to think about. You need to be futuristic when you're looking at it, and tech is always advancing, and it's always moving, and it's always changing things. And there's always disruptors coming into the space. So many organizations, especially in the education space, have to start thinking about these things.
Okay, with AI robots, I would want it to be teaching me a particular skill, because I feel like a robot compared to a lecturer, a robot can actually assess the level of understanding compared to like a human lecturer who just throws the curriculum to you and you have to figure out yourself, do I need to read? Imagine your robot lecturer telling you, you need to work on this concept more.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Then the lecturer is just like, test, you failed, redo, they don't really like do
Yeah,
that particular assessment. And
exactly.
also where we can have AI, probably the medical space. Your doctor, if it's a robot that really knows exactly like what have you eaten, so what's the effect of this?
Mm,
If it's just like a human doctor, they ask you, oh, how long have you been sick? Okay, it could
mm,
be, they eliminate certain things. So
mm,
combination of both can work,
yeah,
should work really, but we should learn or now start trying to, embrace the idea of having
yeah,
robots in our space. Like we see these
right,
movies and then we think, this fiction movie, but it's not happening.
yeah.
It's coming up. It's coming up.
Right. It is happening, and a part of the push and what's thrilling, but also maybe a little bit worrisome is what big data, the capacity of what big data can do, predictive analytics and all of this. And now machines can learn faster. So machines now can learn, and whereas, for example, if you were to ask a question to a lecturer, and knowing this as an educator myself, I don't always know the answers. But a machine could, look into its database, could go online, fetch information, find information about that, whether it's a definition or something that's been there, and basically pick it out in a moment. And so, and then have it in a second. And I think we've started to see it. And I've worked in organizations in which I asked, for once, I asked one of, my superiors, I asked them for advice on something. They just say, Google it. And sometimes they didn't even know that, just say, Google it. And and basically we would find solutions and answers on Google. So I mean, yeah, it's very interesting, and we're starting to see that many of these companies that are collecting a great deal of data have also begun to to really delve into data, big data, and have started to integrate that with artificial intelligence. And so what we'll find is that at a point, if you have, for example, an AI teacher, they could give you answers and solutions that your teacher might not be able to give you.
Yeah.
So that's because they have like access to a huge pool of data, so it's interesting to think about. It really is interesting to think about.